So thank you so much for having us today. We're the team from Hardman with Mike, who is a great friend of our project. I'm Marianne. We've got Anne.
I'm Anne.
Oh,
I'm
Doug.
Doug.
Aaron.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Mongo, pow 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 pow, like that.
So we kind of want to talk a bit to start with about how we came to exist and how we do mental health in the NFT and Web3 space. And we're going to kind of go around collectively and share our story about how our project came to be. So we saw that there was a real need for people to do mental health ethically and inclusively. And basically what we thought was there are all these discords with mental health tabs, there are all these kind of mental health spaces, but who's moderating these? How are we looking after people? Because the moment that we talk about mental health, we invite vulnerability. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm from the UK. You can probably tell that from my accent. And I met Doug and Aaron in the Meta Angels Wishing Well Discord.
It was really interesting for us as we were getting started because there's this sense of community that happens in a Discord. Like everybody is there for the same reason, whether that's because you really connect with that NFT project or that crypto project or whatever, but these become your family. You spend so much time in these Discords that you become vulnerable. And time after time, we would see a little mental health tab, and every once in a while, you'd see somebody post something very vulnerable in that tab because they feel like they're amongst family or they're amongst friends that can relate to them. And there was nobody there that was actively able to, in an ethical way, help that person. It was their friends, which, let's be honest, 2 years ago, they were all degens helping degens. So we're not talking about people that make the best decisions with their lives and their money. And you saw people really struggling, like if they had overinvested in a project or whatever, but they were becoming very vulnerable to who they felt were their friends and family. And Aaron and I were talking, and there was just a need to have somebody there that was present, that was qualified and trained in a way that could help that particular person out, even for 5 minutes of just listening or something like that. We saw it over and over again in every project we were in. I've been sober 33 years. Aaron's in recovery as well for nearly 20. And so we would see people talking about how they were, this was going to drive them to drink. And that was kind of my cue to hop up and say, hey, man, DM me, let's talk you through this. And we just felt that there needed to be more, and there should be a project that's based strictly for the betterment of these communities that we were helping support.
I just want to jump in real quick and acknowledge everybody who's here right now. I mean, we're talking about mental health at an NFT conference. It's not a go-to. And you showing up is powerful. You being here. I saw a couple people leave. They're here in the main room when we're talking about mental health. And when I was younger, I saw George Clinton from Parliament Funkadelic on stage. He played for an hour and a half. And then 2/3 of the room left. And then he came back 20 minutes later and he said, now that they're gone. And then he jammed for 2.5 hours more. And I tell that story because what we're talking about is probably the single most important thing it's not climate crisis, it's not AI, it's not cryptocurrency is the challenges we're facing. The challenges we're facing is these interactions we have with one another. Like we can be here and we can be successful, and I can be here, be successful, and then a relative calls me and I lose my mind. I lose all composure because of one person after all of these successful engagements that we have here. And having those tools and techniques that everybody here is invested in creating to succeed, even on a day in, day out basis, these are the things that are gonna allow us to be early, so to speak, and to get to that place where, dare I say it, everything works out for everyone all the time without harm to anyone. I said at the beginning, like, why am I here? It's because of all the fucking crazy people. And that is no offense to anybody who does not self-define as crazy. I wake up and go to sleep with me every day. I understand what that means. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And I really agree with that. And I think mental health, there's still so much taboo around it. There's still so much stigma. It's still something that people feel really it's really difficult. We all have mental health. We all have a brain. I say this whenever I talk. And so at Held Mind, we thought, how can we have a safe space for people and projects and founders to come and be supported? How can we direct people to in real life help when they're struggling? Because when you're struggling, you don't know where to go. Your amygdala in your brain is hijacked. Your senses are on fire. You need help. You need support. I'm going to pivot over to Aaron to say a bit more about how we do what we do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting about this space, right, is that we sort of consolidate, right? So we go and we spend a lot of time talking to people who are familiar with what we're going through. We spend time in similar places and similar, forms of technology and different things like that. Like a few of us are actually like work in the industry full time and do different things like that. So this concept that you've heard kind of throughout here and that we'll continue to talk about is meeting people where they're at, right? If I'm on the internet, if I'm in chat rooms, if I'm in Discord, if I'm, in an NFT conference, like I need to be able to be my authentic self, talk about what my struggles are, and know that I can be met with people who understand what I'm going through and provide me some sort of solution or support in that moment. And so, honestly, a lot of this, like anything else in the industry, is very like on the fly, right? So at first it was, wow, to Doug's point, there's these mental health channels and nobody is answering people. People are talking about killing themselves. People are talking about harming themselves. And people are like, it's cool, bro, don't worry about it. You just hang in there. It's like, oh, whoa.
Go touch grass.
Yeah, go touch grass, which sometimes, sure, sometimes, yes. But yeah, so at first it was like, wow, we need to like maybe start monitoring other projects' Discords. And then it was like, well, maybe we should have a place to direct people to say, hey, come here. And then it was like, well, maybe we should start talking to these other projects and say, hey, why don't you send your people here when they're hurting? And then it was, hey, why don't we have content that goes to them and meeting people where they're at? And so we started patching actual curated content from therapists directly into other projects' Discords, and then giving them a place to come back and say, hey, they can come and learn more about what we're doing in our Discord, but also, like, we created a ticketing system where somebody could say, hey, I need help now, and I need to talk to somebody, like one-on-one. I can't just post openly into the internet what I'm going through. I'm not comfortable with it. So we gave them the ability to offer, like, to connect one-on-one with actual support.
All right, for the record, this is building. That's what building, now we have an iconic archetype of what building is. That's building. That's what that looks like. That's what we get to bring back to our communities.
And to that point, we've not sold anything. So we started out with this idea that we would have an NFT that would give you access to this. And then as soon as we started generating the art, we realized this isn't inclusive at all if we're selling something that people are going to have anxiety over. So we killed that idea completely and just said, let's spend a year, let's build a network of support. Let's find other therapists that are in Web3. Let's create content for other therapists that aren't in Web3 to help them understand what Web3 is. Anne can talk quite a bit about that. But the whole idea for this project has turned into this like educational crusade about getting people to understand what the differences are in the stressors that we have here in Web3 versus what a normal person is feeling, because we're all in the same boat. Like everybody here has a MetaMask wallet, everybody here has bought ETH. Like that's a stressor to some people and to a lot of people, and that's only gonna grow over time. So let's get the industry ready for dealing with stuff like that. So I'll pass to Anne to talk a little bit about how she got involved with the project as well.
Yeah, thanks. So I introduced myself on Twitter, and Marianne reached out as a fellow therapist because there's been so few actual licensed mental health professionals in the space providing care and support ethically. And Marianne has really been a leader in doing that. And one of my goals is to bring more therapists in. And one thing that I really love about Held Mind, speaking to Aaron's comment about meeting people where they're at, is that there is an opportunity to engage on Twitter Spaces and in the Discord. And when you put yourself out there in a way that is vulnerable, oftentimes you'll be met with a Me Too, right? Or a place where we can find connection with another person. And at the same time, Held Mind offers more crisis support where you can open a ticket in the Discord. And if it's, let's say you're a founder and you have we all know, right? Founders have particular mental health issues and stressors that affect them that they might not feel comfortable putting that out to the rest of the community. And so they can open a Discord ticket and be answered by a mental health professional. I think that's really, what they've come up with is really revolutionary.
And to kind of speak a bit more to that, so we have onboarded licensed mental health professionals from all over the world, and also experts of lived experience in terms of sobriety and recovery, so Doug and Aaron. And Mike is one of our mental health ambassadors, which is so valuable to have people who are active in the space.
Ironic, right?
Active in the space, really supporting the narrative around mental health. So Anne and I have gone a bit further, and I think we'll both kind of pivot off each other with this, in that we've noticed that many people that come into the tickets in our Discord, which is a confidential ticketed system, say, my therapist does not understand what Web3 is, and I am spending time, money, my money, that I spend on therapy, because therapy is a privilege for many, many people. I'm lucky enough that in the UK we have a state-funded national health service. I know that that's not the same here in the States. They're spending their time educating their therapists on what Web3 is, on what NFTs are. So Anne and I were like, this should not be the case. This isn't okay. So we've developed well, I'll let you talk to that.
We developed a training for therapists. It's 4.5 hours. We're applying for CEUs. If you're a therapist, please contact us. And yeah, the goal is to identify, or I guess recognize, for the mental health industry to recognize that Web3 involvement brings on particular emotional issues. I don't want to say issues in a bad way. I just can't think of an appropriate word.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
think
stressful. It is a stressful environment. It's a 24/7 environment, and people need support.
Yeah, regular challenges. There's regular, consistent challenges we're all familiar with. I mean, here's one that I think about all the time. A founder will go through, a lot of people who found NFT projects, they've never run a business before. And that by itself is stressful, along with the unique challenges that Web3 brings. So then we just like keep going, particularly in the United States, but also in the UK, just keep on driving forward. You got this. That whole idea, that ethos, comes from way back in the past. Don't deal with your challenges, just drive through, you got this. And then what will happen? How many of us know of a project that has crashed because the founder crashed? I can think of one from last week. And by being proactive and preemptive in this and knowing that these are ongoing regular challenges, we've been doing these NFT projects, PFP projects, since 2021 very popularly, so we all are familiar with this technique, this style, this occasion, how it shows up. And by being preemptive and saying, okay, if you find these challenges, here's an opportunity. When you just express, like sharing that it's anonymous, like, isn't that a relief off a lot of people's shoulders since everybody's so high profile? Inversely, how about the people who have positions of authority over our lives who are anonymous? Last night, I saw an anonymous person who has over 10,000 followers attack Betty publicly and then attack her husband for supporting her publicly as a lapdog. So these are the situations that we traditionally, right now, that's a regular occasion. And having these tools that are being created is the way forward if what we're doing is a genuine culture. And I'm up here because it's my position that NFTs and Web3 is a genuine culture. It's not like MP3s. I've heard the comparison of MP3s to NFTs, and that we're going to stop calling it NFTs and we'll call them digital assets. MP3s were never a culture. I have a friend right there who I met through NFTs. He's a friend for life. I co-authored, I've written a book recently. I wouldn't have been able to write it without him. He was a non when we met. This is what's possible. This is what we can model for one another. And we do it by taking these courageous steps. These are bold steps. Somebody had a good idea and said, oh yeah, and then when it didn't work out, like with the NFT, selling an NFT to get mental health, like we realized, like realizing that that wasn't the model, shifting, that's a massively popular Web3 tradition, shifting, and then here we are. This amazing moment where we're showing a way forward to the future where we can all succeed. Everything working out for everyone all the time without harm to anyone.
And that's a good point, though, about the shift, right? So if you think about industry, as industry becomes created, right? So why are we here? We don't have an NFT project, right? We don't. Why are we here? Why are we on the stage in NFT.NYC? Because we're part of the industry. We're part of the culture. So like what we learned quickly was that we can support innovation. We can support NFTs. We can support it as it grows, as it changes. And that is the sign of an evolving culture. That is the sign of an evolving industry, right? That there are support systems to help the industry thrive.
But we also have a duty of care to keep the culture safe. I think, Anne and I probably come at that from quite a strong position because we're psychotherapists, do no harm, take care of people. And I think hearing what you were saying, Mike, about Betty being harassed and attacked like that, it's one of the strongest female voices in the space. How do we look after ourselves on an individual level, on a wider cultural level? We do that by taking care of each other and minding our narrative and actually saying, I hate to be really cliche, it's okay not to be okay. Because so many founders push and push and push and push. You're not supposed to be online for 18, 19, 20 hours a day. We did some work with one of the other projects in the space, and their average screen time for their team of over 30 people was 16 and a half hours. That's not sustainable to human life. And I think, we shout out a lot about that in our Mental Health Alliance. We say, remind us of where to get help, but remind us to actually take a break in a meaningful way, even if it's 5 minutes.
And I think that's something that's been interesting as we've added to this Mental Health Alliance, which is what we call where we pump into their Discord and we give access to the moderators of other projects. We've got several dozen projects now that we curate content to on a daily basis. And it's been really nice to hear both founders and users or holders or whatever it is of that particular Discord to come into our Discord and say, that was really refreshing. I just wanted to stop by and say, hey, thank you for that. I needed to hear that today. And that's really rewarding. But at the same time, I think it's necessary, and I hope in another few years, like this is my third NFT conference in the last couple years, I hope in a few years there are 5 or 6 companies like ours that are doing this, and that as we build out this Web3 ecosystem that we all want this decentralized everything and this new world that we're creating. I hope that there's a focus on mental health and all of that, and that people take the time to be safe for themselves, but take time that they don't have in their current 9-to-5 job. Like I've talked to many, many people where they're grinding it out in Web3 because they see that as their future. They see that as the thing that they want to do with for the rest of their lives. And so it's important for us to make sure that front and center of that conversation is mental health and taking care of yourself. Because we've got this as a society that we've built up in our regular 9-to-5 jobs that you go to work from 9 to 5, then you go home, and then you do this, and then you do this. Like there's this order where, what we're doing right now is a 24/7, and there's no set cycle to that. So it's almost like as a people, we need to reinvent the times and the timetables that we are interacting, and making sure that there's time in there for taking a break and taking care of yourself. I think that's the most important thing that we can get across right now.
Yeah, I was going to echo what Doug said, which is, I think everybody here is an innovator, is creative, is laying the foundation for the future of what technology looks like, which means how we interact with one another and how business is done. And this is very much a marathon and not a sprint. And so take care of yourselves.
I mean, one other thing I'd like to point out is that a lot of the people that do harm, there's that important saying, oh my gosh, hurt people, my Google. Oh my gosh. And that is so important to remember. And people come, a lot of people who are non-scammers are coming from a place of shame for whatever they went through. This is true. It doesn't, not everybody. Some people are just like regular textbook sociopaths, and they've decided to lean into that, the negative aspects of that way of being. Okay, that's on them. But then there's the other people, and we get to model what is possible by creating these sort of opportunities. We get to model. Here's an important one. I'm not up here because I didn't go through this. I'm up here because I went through this. I did the work. I'm doing the work. Me being up here is doing the work. Doing the work is hard. It's simple, and it's hard. And letting people know that that's the opportunity, and vulnerability is the superpower. There is a when I have something to say to somebody, that is critical or any sort of thing, I ask their permission that I can give them some feedback. It is inappropriate for me to say, you did this wrong, if I don't have permission from someone to start that conversation. And so if somebody comes at you with "you suck," that's how their opening line is, you don't have to buy into it. And another thing is, you don't have to allow it for someone doing it to somebody else. We don't have to do that for anyone else.
I think just to close out, because I think we're nearly at time, aren't we? The part you said about we don't have to do that for everyone else, we don't. And I think part of my kind of closing message would be founders, project leaders, whatever you want to call yourselves, it's not your job to look after your community's mental health, but it is your job to do it in an ethical and intentional way and to take care of it meaningfully. We've actually got over 45 brand partnerships now at Hardman because those projects have seen, we know that our holders need this, we know that our community need this, and we know that we're not qualified to take care of it. So that would be my kind of close from me on that point.
Yeah,
I would only add for also the founders to take care of your own mental health. And if we can support you in any way, please let us know.
Yeah, and I would say not everybody's a founder, not everybody's involved in take this moment to be an ambassador for not only your own mental health, but the community's mental health and the people around you, right? Stigma is suffocating. It's suffocating. And the way you break it down is you put a mental health panel on a main stage. It's you talk to one person about how they're doing and you genuinely care. And you're open about you, who you are, right? Just be you.
Bisexual. This is a thing. Being that somebody in here may be bisexual and dealing with that and getting to a place where we can say these things. Recovering. What? I'm getting the sign that we're wrapping up. So I want to acknowledge everybody who is here. Look at you. We are the ones that make the difference. My people. Out here, in here. Pow, pow, pow.
You can find more about us at heldmind.com. Thank you.
Thank you.